not limited to. Okay, because there's not someone in this category, all the categories. Bereavement members should be, but not limited to, have some experience in hospice and counseling, funeral planning, or any other area dealing with grief and bereavement, as well as excellent communication and interpersonal skills. He or she should be Holy Ghost Spirit filled, have sound biblical knowledge, organization and leadership skills, as well as the ability to maintain confidentiality. As the bereavement leader or bereavement coordinator, as I said earlier, it is my responsibility to work closely with whoever's officiating the service, whether that person is in New Life Baptist Church or even in another state. We just did a funeral a couple of weeks ago, and the officiating pastor was in Wisconsin. And I connected with him, and it was just the whole week and a half. That's all I did was talk to this pastor. And when he got to Washington State, where we had the funeral, because the body had to be shipped, when he got to my church, he knew exactly who I was because we had communicated that well. I've already talked a little bit about what the bereavement team does, what their responsibilities are. So this is what happens. Whenever someone passes, whether it's a church member or a family member, the church, they call the church. In some cases, they call me directly. Once I get that phone call, even if I'm in my classroom, I tell my students, okay, someone passed away, I have a funeral to work. What that means is they know if my cell phone rings, it's got to be something dealing with the funeral. So even my principal and my dean, they know what my job is. Like I said, teaching is my job. This right here is my passion. So I get the phone call, then I get a number for a family to connect with the family. I make that meeting. I set it up a time to go meet with that family, take Diana with me, and in that meeting is when we do all of our paperwork. We decide what it is that they're looking for. There are times as a coordinator that I actually will go with the family to a funeral home. And when I go to that funeral home, I go to help them make good choices. So instead of them paying $10,000 for this casket over here, when they don't have $10,000 total, I suggest this casket over here for $2,000. It is so important as a coordinator of your bereavement committee that they are right there with the family at all times. So we sit down with the funeral home people and we plan everything. Now, in the cases where they've already pre-planned for a service, then we don't have to do that. We don't have to meet at the funeral home. Then we can meet at the house. Okay, so there's usually 2 meetings. This is really important for you to know if you're going to do a bereavement committee. There's usually 2 meetings. There's the initial meeting where you go meet with the family, get all the information that you can, and then the second meeting is where you go back and you plan the obituary. You make sure you have all the names spelled correct. You make sure everything is in place. Because I've done so many funerals, I work really closely with all of the funeral homes in the area, all of them. We only have 1 Black funeral home in our area. And when I say in our area, I mean in a 50-mile radius, 1. And I've only worked with this lady 1 time. And unfortunately, that was 1 time too many for me. But anyway, so all of the other funeral homes are white funeral homes. All of the crematorials that we use are white crematorials, but they know me. So they know if New Life Baptist Church is getting ready to do something, hey, all we need to do, we know Valerie's getting ready to call us. I meet with them. I work with them closely. So I set up a time when the body's coming to the church. I want to make sure I'm there. Every step of the way, I, as the coordinator, works on this funeral. We've met. We've had the second meeting. Plan 1 was meet the family. Plan 2 is to go back to make sure you have everything in order, to make sure there are times when Diana and I have to go with a family member and decide what their loved one's going to wear to their funeral. It's really sad when you have a child, older child, that says, I don't know what to bury my mom in. Can you come and help me? We do that. Is that part of a bereavement coordinator's job? No, it's not. That's not in my job description. That doesn't stop me from going because I know that family needs help. So Diana, as my administrative assistant, she makes phone calls. I remember we did a funeral during the Christmas holiday, and the lady that passed away suddenly, her son was in jail. By the time Diana finished on the phone, that baby was at his mama's funeral. That's the kind of work that she does. That's the kind of work that bereavement committee does. And it makes it so that Bishop Peterson doesn't have anything to do but show up. If he's going to be officiate, that's all he needs to do. Okay. When we say make it happen, that means the body's here. I've made sure everything is straight. I made sure the flowers are in place. I've collected all the cards. The family comes. The family advocate is meeting them at the door. As she meets them and she escorts them to the room that they're going to be in, everything else is in place. My logistic person has contacted hospitality. The menu is planned. The music is planned, what songs they're going to sing. All of this makes the job of the pastor and the clergy that work with them and the secretary at the church where they don't have anything to do. So this would be something really good. This is important. No matter how well you plan a service, you're going to have some issues. Whether they're small issues or they're big issues, you're going to have some issues. And the most important thing, and I really stress this to my committee members, especially to myself, you've got to stay prayed up. This is not a position that you can take lightly. You've got to stay prayed up. You've got to pray about every decision that you make as a bereavement coordinator. You've got to pray about every decision you make as a team member. Okay? One of the most important things about being a bereavement team is confidentiality. That's important in the whole entire church. Unfortunately, there are times when people really feel like they have to go and tell other people's business. That's why I only have 4 people on my committee, because I make sure that the only person that knows what's going on with that family besides what they need to know is myself and my administrative assistant. No one needs to know that this person doesn't have enough insurance to bury their family. That's nobody's business. Bereavement does not pay for funerals. Let me say that out to begin with. There are some people that actually think that, well, they got a bereavement committee, they can pay. No, we don't do that. We don't. There are sometimes if we have a service for someone that is not affiliated with our church, and I don't necessarily have to know that person. If you're not a member, then we have a fee. Most churches have fees. Then my fee, I can waiver part of it, but because I am so involved, then we get paid for everything that we do. Because once I start that process, the whole entire week up until that person is laid to rest or cremated or whatever the family's choice is, I'm with that family. They can call me anytime. After I think I got my slides out of the way, but let me go with this one. LifeNet consultant. That is not a position that's actually connected with New Life Baptist Church. That's a title that I gave myself along with a friend, and that's because as a LifeNet consultant, I meet with families. I meet with individuals. We pre-plan people's funerals. We pre-plan as far as, do you have enough insurance? I ask certain questions. What is your family's wishes? What is it that they want to see happen what do they want to happen when they pass away? Are you prepared for when you pass away? What do you want your children to do? Do you have a will? That's what I go meet with. My daughter Diana's teacher, stepfather was passing. He had cancer and she knew he was passing. So I met with her. And she said, well, Valerie, I know he doesn't have a lot of time. I said, okay, this is what we need to do. She had no clue. She didn't have a clue. Her mom was in total denial. She didn't have a clue what to do. I said, let's go to the funeral home. I knew he wanted to be cremated because she'd said that a number of times. We went to the funeral home. That's LifeNet Consultant. We sit down with the funeral home director. So when this man passed away 2 weeks later, they were able to breathe because everything had been done already. That's what my position as a life net consultant. I travel, I go to different organizations, and I talk to them about, do they have insurance? And so when I first started doing this, I went to my seniors at our church, and the ladies were like, we have to have insurance. Now this lady's 70 some years old, y'all. Don't you think you need some insurance by the time you turn 77? Well, it was a couple ladies, and from the information that I gave them, they went and got them some insurance because they wanted to make sure that if they outlived, if they passed before their children, that they had insurance, that they had a way for their child, because we've done a number of funerals, there was no insurance. So instead of being able to bury that person on a week afterwards, those bodies were out sometime 2 and 3 weeks because they were trying to scrape up money to bury their loved ones. That's really sad. So I travel and I talk to different organizations about, this is what you need to do. These are the plans that you need to make. Questions that I ask, are you prepared in case something happens? How do you get prepared? Get you some insurance. Sit down and talk to your family members. Let them know what's going on. Different kinds of insurance. I give suggestions. Then I tell them, do some research. Find the best insurance that fits your family. Everybody in my family, down to my 5-month-old granddaughter, have insurance. And it never really occurred to me that that's what I really needed to do. But because I've seen it happen so many times, I wanted to make sure if something happens to me, they need to be ready. Different types of insurance, do some research. Find the best one that's fitting for you. Make sure you have a will. That's important. Make sure your final wishes. If you want to be cremated, we did a funeral 3 weeks ago, and the man died in Fayetteville, North Carolina, but he wanted to be brought back to Lacey, Washington, because when his 15-year-old son died, he wanted to be buried next to his son. So again, I'm planning a funeral in North Carolina, and I'm planning a funeral in Washington. But that was his wish. Now, his family didn't wish that, because no one was up there. None of his family members was in Lacey anymore. But that's what he wanted. Make sure you know what your family want to happen with their body, whether they want to be cremated or whether they want to be buried. Make sure you know. You put it in writing. Make sure your family knows where all your paperwork is. Okay? If you have an insurance policy, we did one funeral, and the same man that wanted us to help him find something to bury his mom in, he had no clue where none of her stuff. I think we stayed at his house 3.5 hours trying to find the insurance policy, trying to find her social security card, trying to find all the stuff that he needed to bury his mom. We were successful, even to Diana going online and planning in Kansas City to make sure that she had someplace to be buried. That's what we do. Yeah, there'll be a place to ask questions. I'm almost at that point. Okay. The next thing that's important is make sure that the families know they don't have to grieve by themselves. Okay. Don't let them do that. Get a support. Find someone to talk to. That leads me to Stephen Ministry. Stephen Ministry is a one-on-one caregiving ministry. And after being a bereavement coordinator for 2 years, Bishop sent 3 other ministers and myself to a little seminar, kind of like this right here. And somewhere during that time we were in there, I was so fascinated with Stephen Ministry, I made a comment, and I was just talking to the people at the table. Oh man, this is something I would like to do. I didn't know that Bishop Obi had already planned for me to become a Stephen Minister leader. Church sent me to Dallas. I was there for a week. Now I came back. Stephen Ministry is a ministry that you do not have to be a minister. As a matter of fact, most of the people that are Stephen ministers are lay members in the church. These are people that have that compassion and that love to want to work with someone. And it's not just about grief. It's about any crisis that you are going through in your life. That's what a Stephen ministry is. It's a one-on-one caregiving ministry. Oh, sorry. I went to the, I studied for a whole week from that Sunday that we arrived to that Saturday morning, came back. Bishop said, okay, Sister Valerie, now that you've done bereavement, now that you've been to this Stephen ministry training, what do you want to do with all the information? I think you should write a guide. Yeah, right, Bishop. You got the wrong person. No, I know you can do this, Sister Valerie. I have confidence in you. No, you see something in me that I didn't see in myself. Oh, Valerie, I know you can. Sister Valerie, you can do this. I went home. I called my son, and I called my first daughter. And I said to him, I said, Bishop says he thinks I need to go and write a guide. And guess what? That's exactly what I did. I left my house. I pulled out my little small laptop, and I sit down. And saints, let me tell you, by 12, I started about 9. By 12 o'clock that night, I had already written the first 4 chapters of my guide. I wasn't writing a big book. I wasn't doing that because I wanted something that would teach someone how to start and run a bereavement committee successfully. I wanted to teach someone about congregations, about what they needed to do to talk to their members, to be prepared before a tragedy. So I did. I wrote my book into my little guide, and in 2 weeks, my guide was done. It was printed, and it looks like this. A little small guide. It's nothing big. I think it's like 67 pages, but it's such a powerful little book. And I had it printed, had it done. Oh, we have some out there if you want to look at one later. And what happened was I took this guide because Bishop, again, said that he thought that's what I needed to do. And I put it on paper, and we do have some for sale. But I went from here. I had my Stephen ministry. I have to this day commissioned 31 Stephen ministers. 31. My first class, I had 16 members. My second class, I had 14 members. And my third class, I had 5. Well, during that third class, one of my young members working construction fell 9 stories and died. That was the hardest thing, to try to teach his fiance that was in the class also how to deal with his death. That was one of those funerals where there was a challenge because this young man was so popular in the service, and it was a 4-hour service. 4 hours, and it was high powered the whole 4 hours. A lot of issues, yes. I finally said to Bishop, this is Ray we're talking about. Just let Mama do whatever she want to do. As long as I cleared it, that's exactly what happened. But his fiance actually never did finish Stephen ministry, but all of our deacons are commissioned Stephen ministers. Over half of our ministers are commissioned Stephen ministers. This is a program that you should check into getting into your church because it makes a big difference. So I'm hoping, even though I was talking fast because I know y'all have a lot going on, that I have said something that would even give you an idea of at least checking into. Now, when I travel to congregations, I'm teaching them how to start and run a bereavement committee. Teaching them just like Stephen ministry classes. That was a 50-hour class. It took us 4.5 months to complete it. And we were going every Friday for 2.5 hours each class. And then I think we went 5 Saturdays all day long. That's how intense that program is. But what happens with me is I go in, I invite other churches, not just one. So it's a bunch of people to come in, and my daughter and I, we actually teach every step of what you need to do to run a successful bereavement committee. So I think that's all that I have to say now. I'm open for questions. Yes, sir. Yes, you can. As long as you have a copy and a lawyer has a copy And and your loved one knows exactly where to find it at. Yes, you can. Any other question? I think you had a question, didn't you, sweetheart? Did you have a question from us ago? Okay.
How would they know to contact you in the first place? Like you were talking about the person that passed away in Fayetteville. How would they even know to contact you?
Once they contact the church automatically contacts me. Now, I have had a couple of funerals that we did that the family member, because everyone at church know I'm the bereavement coordinator. So I've had a couple of family members that called me directly on my cell, and everybody has my cell number. But once the church is contacted, then either the senior pastor or the secretary will call me. And from there, that's all they have to do. They don't have to do anything else. Occasionally, when I'm not doing it at school, I will have someone to have the secretary to print the programs for me. But Diana's the one that writes up everything, types it up, and formats it and gets it ready for the obituary. I'm located in Lacey, Washington. hmm Washington State, right? Um, Bishop Peterson is my bishop now. Yeah, and I do have some stuff to give y'all at the end of the seminar, so y'all can have something to take home. I'm done.
The premiere is about to start in the back. If you're here for the premiere, we'd like you to enter in this door. The premiere is going to start in the back.
So, are there any other questions? If not, thank you all for coming, and I really appreciate you taking the time. Yes, ma'am. Uh-huh.
So the person passed, their family member doesn't agree with the pre-deed. In the state of North Carolina, from my understanding, family can overrule. Because I'm told that it's no longer your property now versus what you want in the instance. So if I pick, so if someone picks someone who don't want to agree with their way of doing things, is it really legal for that person to be able to change after the person has passed?
It's not supposed to. Each state is different. In Washington State, they can't change it. Once it's put in writing, and once it's written down, I'm sorry, there's no changing whatsoever. But I totally agree with you about North Carolina. They do have some kind of strange laws. But you're supposed, then you have to get a lawyer involved. Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
Do you have to have a will?
You do not necessarily have to have a will, but it's best that you do have a will. Yes, it's best that you do, because what happens is when you don't have a will and you have, let's say, 4 or 5 children, you've got two that's been there with you all through everything, and then you have 2 or 3 that's never shown up, but they come out there with their hands out. It becomes a big issue. So it's better that you have a will. And a will have, and one more thing I do want to say is, if you have military families, okay, make sure that the spouse understands that if their loved one dies in the middle of the month, their money is going to stop until everything is done. I didn't realize that until I did a funeral for a military family. Well, actually, it was Aaron's. Aaron died in June, and April, his father passed away. So, passed away really from a broken heart. But I didn't know until then that the money stopped until everything was settled before she started. So it was almost 3 or 4 months. So if you have a military family, make sure that they realize that, hey, if somebody passes in the middle of the month, first of the month, they won't get a paycheck. So they need to be prepared for that. And that's when the insurance comes into handy. Okay? Any other questions? Again, thank you, each and everyone. I'm sorry it was rushed, but I know it was a whole lot going on. And I really appreciate you being my first seminar. Do you have a question? Yes. Well, we have 20 minutes to ask questions. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. And I can talk for the next 20 minutes. If anybody else have any more questions. Yes, ma'am.
You say you did training.
Yes.
How long did that consist?
Well, actually, the training is it's a 3 hour training. It's only 3 hours, and in that 3 hours, we're working the whole entire time. Diana's with 2 groups. And she works with the administrative assistant group and the logistics, and I work with the family advocate and the coordinator. It's a lot of work to be in a bereavement coordinator, a lot of work. But as much as I do now, Diana, my daughter, wave your hand, Diana, so they can see who you are. Thank you. She can plan a funeral just as well as I can. She knows every step. And now, because I've been doing this 6 years, going on 7 years, I can do the job with my eyes closed. And some of them, remember when I was saying that there's issues, sometimes church members, sometimes it's the church members that's the issue. I've had ushers to come up to me gonna tell me what to do. No, baby, back up. I know what my job is. Now here is your job. You're an usher, go do what you need to do. I have to tell them because I have this one and she is always wanting to tell me hold up. I know what my job is. What is your job? Oh, well, I'm supposed bye. That's what I have to tell. Bye. Because she every single few. Well, did you come? Walk away, Carol. Go that way. And she knows now. She knows don't come up here and try to tell me what my job is because I know what my job is. You need to go do your job. So, any other questions? This is my family. My brother, Nars, and my sister-in-law, Patrice, that came down from Chesapeake, Virginia to support me, and my oldest brother, Joe, that came up from Aberdeen, Rayford area to support me tonight. So I'm really excited that they're here. And of course, my daughter, where I go, she goes. So any other questions? I hope I've said something that will really encourage you to take this information back. I have brochures. My daughter has some stuff to pass out. Take it back and talk to your congregation and say, hey, you can get a bunch of congregations together and I come down, do that one training, and you go back and you'd be surprised how easy things will flow. Any other questions? No, that's all. Thank you.